How's your drive here?
What's that?
How was your drive here? Good?
Year and a half.
And how long it take?
How
An hour.
about you?
About 20 minutes. So,
Nobody is no parents.
That's the.
Oh, yeah.
Just the first time I try to talk to people and then I can't hear.
Yeah.
You have AD.
Yes,
Me too.
you too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have, this one's, and this is just,
Your name?
oh, man. This is just the hearing aid that's called it.
I did that for a while,
Yeah.
and then finally got implant for both.
Yeah, I've been told that, that's coming at some point.
Yeah.
No,
I waited, now,
I'm excited. I have you.
then 2014.
You know, you email, so.
I did that. I was old technology.
I know.
You want to
I
for the people, go out out there and cover
We had a problem getting it in the board meeting,
3 hours.
because I have the Gmail.
Right. I believe.
So you put here for 9 months.
Yeah.
So when
Well,
did you get the first one?
2001. Just at the, relationship,
I did.
didn't tell me about it.
Yeah.
I was not happy, I missed it out.
Right, something happened, so I had to postpone it.
Yes.
I live in it.
It's just been 2 years.
Yeah, okay. How do you like it?
Pretty new.
Right.
Can you hear me on the Zoom? Just give me a little thumbs up if you can hear me. Great, thank you. This is the first time I'm doing a hybrid, so bear with me. I hope it's useful, but we'll get started in a few minutes.
You ever try that?
It's, sometimes this one will, and the other thing, so how about you? Sometimes this one will.
I don't have COVID.
So I'm trying just.
I get the captions running, so you can kind of hear the conversation happening in the room on the top of the Zoom slide here.
Good.
She done for that, she'd actually know.
Yeah.
The couple of summit man, right?
I have both together.
Oh, so you know.
I found that this one,
Last name?
my doctor says when I do that, when I go to, you know, science, when I go to Mount Sinai, they do the testing.
Yeah.
I say, I'm here to test from this side.
What?
And I said, that's not my experience. I said, you know,
I came back a week ago.
if I'm just using, you know, if it's a.
2 weeks ago, on Friday, I was down.
I'm actually talking.
You do it like that.
Very last minute, 6 days, last minute.
That's your comment.
Get on the bike and I went pull it out.
Now I feel like this. I mean, nobody told me. we
Yeah, yeah.
But like I said, if I feel like. Your example, because you, right, malnourished, you have to learn that. And so. Many things that neighbors. So. So I'll just say that I can. And I explain how it works, here's better, okay. So I'm gonna tell them. But I never shut down because it looks like this will be better. I said I should go back and do more of the exercise. When I first had it done, no, it's so crazy. I'm just thinking, wow, Martin, I see your.
Always so. Very thick months. It's like,
I do longer.
Yeah.
I'll get to it.
But honestly.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a way.
Yeah, that's right.
I agree. No, it's pretty good.
I don't volunteer.
Like for me, that's what done a lot of my left side is down. Have my implant down.
Is it the same as your arms?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Put stuff in newspapers and advertising, what can I say?
We got 2 people on Zoom. We got 2 people on Zoom.
Okay, it should be,
Yeah, so we got, I'm not sure who's there.
yes,
We got a couple of people on Zoom. So,
great that he might
that's good.
join. Okay, and
You want to give it a couple of minutes before we start?
I think it's about 5 minutes. Is the captioning on?
Yeah, so you can see it. It's actually really good because it's picking up, the microphone on the laptop is picking up the conversation around the room.
Okay.
So it'll be pretty good.
You want me to introduce you? You could introduce you.
I can introduce myself, unless you want to introduce me. No, okay.
You're fine. So we have enough that we can introduce ourselves. We can each introduce ourselves.
Okay, you look at that.
So, this is what we're giving lunch to, here, rooms.
She suggested if we want to, we'd like to put everybody at one of the tables and then just have you guys turn so that we're facing each other when we have lunch.
So I guess I'll start in the introduction. So my name is Brad McKenna. I am the technology director for the HLAA Boston chapter. And I've met Sandy on a couple of different occasions, and she asked me to come down this way to give a presentation that I gave to the HLAA National Convention and at ALA, which is the American Library Association Convention, both in June. I was very busy in June. But this is going to be just basically how you can use your library to support your hearing needs. And so I'll give a little bit more of an introduction for me in a minute, but you want to go around the room?
Okay, I just felt we would introduce ourselves. So, everybody knows me, well, if you haven't met me, I'm Sandy, I'm president of the chapter.
I am Mallory George. I am the vice president of the chapter.
Linda Maloney, secretary of the chapter.
John Ryder, live in Mash Street and been to a couple of meetings. Very nice to have you here today.
I'm Diane Hannah. I live in Cotulla. I'm a friend of Jen's. It's my first time here, so it's very interesting to be with a group of people who can't hear. It feels really, really interesting to me because we're usually in groups where we're the ones that can't hear. So thank you all.
Hi, my name is Tracy Person and I live here in Sandwich. And I've been to a few things, not too many. And Sandy introduced me to the program.
Hi, my name is Tony Baptiste. Steve is spelled correctly. No.
How did it do?
Baptiste. B.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I'm new here, live here 4 months in Massachusetts, originally from Northern Virginia and Central Virginia. I retired from Northern Virginia. So I did participate in HLAA a few times down there, even been to the headquarters in Maryland. When we have the couple times I participated in walk for hearing, yeah, so that was fun. But I didn't really get involved much with my work. I really been really busy. Anyway, I'm here.
All right, so yeah, speaking of the Walk for Hearing, the Boston Walk for Hearing is Sunday, October 5th. So if you can make it to Boston, you can come and meet lots of people with hearing loss and a lot of vendors. That's the good part is you have, you get to talk to the people like CapTel is there, the Caption Landline Phone. So there's a bunch of different vendors there that you can talk about accessible hardware or apps, because everything, everything's an app nowadays. Yeah.
When is the Boston meeting?
The Boston Walk The Boston Walk is what I was
Oh,
talking
oh,
about.
you-
That's what I
oh,
was talking about,
okay.
Boston Walk, yeah.
I'm gonna tell something. Our chapter has participated in the Boston Walk in the last couple of years. This year I walked at the National Convention in Indianapolis. I sponsored our chapter in a walk for hearing, and we raised some money. And we're getting a check for that pretty soon, even though it was in June, they said it was good in October, or November, whatever. So I'm not doing the walk for hearing in October this year, because I'm not gonna be here. But if anybody else wants to do it, they're welcome to.
All right, so with that, let's get into my presentation. So there we go, a little about me. So I failed my first hearing test when I was 5. But I didn't get my first set of hearing aids until I was 23. Because I was in denial. I was in denial, but I shouldn't have been, because my father has hearing aids. Everybody on my father's side has hearing aids. But this was the 80s. We didn't talk about hearing loss. And so when I started at Partners Healthcare, I started when I was 19. And then I worked in a data center that was really loud and constant droning and buzzing. And I'm sure that it increased my hearing loss. It was always going to happen because it's hereditary. But I'm sure that didn't do it any favors. And so when I moved to a different department, I was in a cube farm and everybody's talking very low, couldn't hear. And so I knew it was time to bite the bullet, and I got my first set of hearing aids. I worked for Partners for 14 years, and then when I was 33, I became a librarian. And so I started in a library, and it's kind of funny to have a hard of hearing librarian, right? Because most of the time you gotta be quiet when you're in a library. I have to constantly remind patrons, I need you to speak up. And I'll be honest, it's tough because a lot of the times the patrons will think I'm trying to get them in trouble in the library by having them speak up. So I have, I'll get into the accommodations I made later, but it took me a long time to start speaking up. So long, it took me 7 more years as a librarian to actually start speaking up. And stop me if you've heard this one before, but COVID changed everything. So I couldn't do my job essentially because we had so much phone work. So I can't really hear well on the phone. And so when we were closed and only doing curbside delivery, meaning that people wanted to pick up a book, we had to schlep it out to them. They would call for that. And I had so much problems hearing on the phone. And then when we opened by appointment only, everybody had masks. And masks are incredibly difficult because I've been reading lips since I failed that first hearing test at 5 years old. So it took me a very long time to actually just acknowledge the hearing loss. And that's why I got involved in HLAA, because the conversations I should have been having between ages 5 and 19, I didn't have, but I know how important those conversations are. And so that's why I'm here today to talk about it. And as being a librarian, there are offerings for deaf and hard of hearing people in the library. Most of the time you have to ask for them though. So librarians are always looking for program ideas, collection ideas. So books, which I'll get into the end because after all, I am a librarian. So I'll give you some reading recommendations. So this is just kind of a way to get everyone to keep an eye open when they go to libraries or in their community, because you never know what help you're going to get or from whom. So here we go. So here's some of the services. And so these that I talked about not being able to do my job because of a bunch of different factors. And so I needed to ask for accommodations at work in order to continue to do it. So you'll see it, I hate the phone. That's why I'm not smiling in that picture. But what I'm wearing is a T-coil headset. And so instead of using the handset on the phone, I got an accommodation at work to give that T-coil headset. And what it does is it replaces the handset, and I have T-coils in my hearing aids. And so that means the sound is going directly to my hearing aids and to both of them. So the little speakers sit on my hearing aids, and I change the program in my hearing aids to turn the T-coil on. And so then when the call comes in, instead of struggling to get the position of the phone right, because the microphones are usually back here, so it's very weird to place a handset. I just put on the headset and the T-coil sends the sound from the phone directly to my hearing aids. And so if you don't know if you have a T-coil in your hearing aids, check with your audiologist the next time you have an appointment. The stress on the manufacturer's place on invisibility does us all a disservice, because one of the things that it does is it removes the room for the T-coil. So the T-coil is just a copper coil that's in the hearing aids. And so that way there's a copper coil in my hearing aids, and then there's a copper coil in those ear cups. And the sound, instead of traveling through the air, I think it's a magnetic field. I'm not a physicist, so I don't know the specifics of it, but the way the T-coil works is that two different parts can connect together and send the sound directly to your hearing aids instead of having to go over the air. But not all hearing aids have them. I would recommend them for anybody. If you get them, ask your audiologist, because you need the physical copper coil in order to make use of it, and you need the program to turn it on. And so check with the audiologist, see if they have it. If they say that magic word that I keep hearing everywhere, Auracast, which is a different kind of assisted listening system based on Bluetooth, that's not here yet. So there's only like 3 hearing aid manufacturers with 3 specific models that are able to connect to Auracast. So keep in the back of your mind, Auracast is coming and it's going to be great. But right now, T-coil is a great way for anyone to connect to the phone or an AV system, stuff like that. Yes, sir.
What about Bluetooth in your hearing aid?
So we'll get into that. Yeah, so that's the other thing, right? So like the Bluetooth allows you to pair your phone directly to your hearing aid. So most hearing aids also have a Bluetooth adapter. And so for that one, you just have to pair your hearing aids to your phone, and it sends it directly there. And so Auracast uses a different flavor of Bluetooth. And so that's why they think it's going to be the future. And they're not wrong, but the future is not now. So you definitely need a Bluetooth adapter and a T-coil in your hearing aids. Most of them come with it, so you don't have to worry about it. But you have to ask for it a lot of the times. So it's really tough to see now, but I also have a button that I wear at work that says, please speak clearly, I'm hard of hearing. And so I wear that when I'm at work because it's exhausting to self-identify. If I have to keep talking to patients saying, I'm sorry, I can't hear you, can you speak up? I don't do it all the time because it's tiring. So that button is kind of like a passive way to let people know. I will say it is ironic that at a library, not everybody reads. So I do have to still self-identify, but it's tools, right? So that you need many, many tools to help yourself with hearing loss. So I have that, and I do get some people that actually do. Oh, I have hearing loss too. And it starts that conversation, and then we talk about hearing aids, all that kind of stuff. I see a hand go up.
So do you need the headset on every time you want to use the T-coil?
Yep. So you have to see. So I have to put on. So the question was for people on Zoom is, oh yeah, the captions got it. Great. So yeah, you have to put the headset on because that has one end of the loop. The hearing loop is what they call it. And then I have to turn my phone. I had to turn my hearing aids to the T-coil setting to turn it on. So it's not something that I can just pop the headset on and answer. I have to make a change to my hearing aids in order to turn it on, but I have to have it on. And it only works for landlines. And so for my phone, I have the Bluetooth connection. And so that is easier. I think there may be, actually, I'll get into something that kind of later on, I'll get into something that's like a little different when it comes to how to make your hearing aids work better for you. But good question. But yeah, you do always have to have it on. And so yeah,
You have to let me in.
I just let you in. Wait, she's here, Ann Fisher. What are you doing, Sandy?
This is on the meeting.
Okay. So the last thing I did was my molding. So on the bottom here, you'll see I'm a big Bruins fan, so I got black and gold moldings. And so I'm tall, so it's not always apparent that I have hearing aids. But if like patrons need help, I don't want to hover over them. So I will bend down. And a lot of the times what I'll do if I need to hear them better is turn my head. And sometimes they can see they see something in my ear. A lot of the times they just chalk it up to a Bluetooth headset, but sometimes it'll make them pause and ask a question, and then the conversation begins there. And so why do I say all this? Because you are not librarians, so big deal, right? The point of all of this stuff is you never know who's going to have hearing loss. So keep your eyes open when you're in the library. Maybe you'll see a telltale tube sticking out of somebody's ear, something like that, and start the conversation. The last thing I'll mention here on this page, this is a page of our website, and it's the accessibility page. So this is a trend in libraries to let people know ahead of time, because it's very frustrating to go somewhere and not have an accommodation that you may need. And so we have it's not just hearing related accommodations, but we have an accessibility page on the website that shows, like, we have large print books, we have screen magnifiers on the public computers, and I just got an assisted listening system, and that's going to go on that page. And if you don't know what an assisted listening system is, I'll get to that in a little bit. So check your local library's website, see if there's an accessibility page. Maybe they have like a hearing loop, or maybe they have a collection geared towards the deaf and hard of hearing, because books are always helpful, right? And so that's what libraries are. So that is a little bit about me and the library. So the other thing I do, my title is the technology librarian. So that means I'm in charge of, I like to say, anything with a plug. And so all the hardware, the software, the website. But in addition to that, one of the things I do is I hold one-on-one tech help sessions. And so, one-on-one, you can book an hour of my time and I can go over whatever. I can't always guarantee I'm going to have the answer, but I'll work with you and we'll go through it. A drop-in, that's become very popular, where if you have a specific issue, you can drop in and I can give you 15 minutes of my time and hopefully resolve the issue. If not, tell you have to spend money, because that's really becoming an annoyance. Devices don't last as long as they should. And so if someone comes into the drop-in with a 10-year-old laptop, most likely my answer is going to be, you have to upgrade. But a lot of the time it is an issue that we can go over. Some of the topics with hearing aid related, since I started wearing that pin, people have been open to talking to me about their hearing loss. I've had plenty of different questions about, like, hearing aids themselves. So a lot of the times I'll just take out my hearing aid and kind of show them what it is and show them how it works. The Bluetooth pairing, like you were saying, Tony, hearing aid apps, because every manufacturer has their own apps. I love the caption apps, right? So Android has Live Transcribe built into the operating system. I think the Live Speech or something is on iOS, which is Apple. And then there's the AVA app, which these are just apps that you can install on your phone. And yeah, there we go, right there. So there we go. So show it. Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty good. It's so the AVA is great. It is, you have a free tier. So the only issue you run into if you don't pay them is you only get a 40-minute session for free. And so that means if this meeting goes longer than 40 minutes, Mallory will have to stop the session and just restart it. So it's not a showstopper. But these caption apps are fantastic. And you can see here, I'm using my laptop to create those captions at the top of the screen. And so most devices now have a caption option. And it's a lot better than it has been. It's still going to make mistakes, but it gives you a leg up, right? And as I showed the previous slide, it's not about one solution to help you with hearing loss. You have to grab a bunch of different things. So it gives you a lot of different options. Audiograms, I'm sure everyone is very familiar with the audiograms. So that's another thing I will walk people through. And over-the-counter versus prescription hearing aids, I've seen like 2 or 3 different patrons come in with an over-the-counter hearing aid that didn't work for them. So it's a double-edged sword. I like having the cheaper option without the prescription, but a lot of the times they don't work because of like inner ear topography. So my ear canal makes like an abrupt turn. So like I have to have the moldings in order to send the sound directly to my ear. Over-the-counter hearing aids don't have that because you have to get fitted for it with your audiologist. So I had one patron come in with these over-the-counter hearing aids, but the domes, so what they call instead of like the moldings, you can get little domes that fit inside your ear canal. Her ear canals were too tiny. They wouldn't fit, so she couldn't use them. And then I had someone else come in with another set, and the volume control was a little screw that they gave you, this tiny screwdriver that you had to twist lefty loosey, righty tighty, right? And sometimes that's too much for manual dexterity, right? And so it's very frustrating. So like I'll explain to them that maybe this isn't the solution. Maybe you need to see an audiologist and get a professional model. So I like being able to offer that because a lot of the times people will get the over-the-counter hearing aids and just think that, oh, hearing aids aren't for me, they're not going to work. And it's not that hearing aids don't work for them, it's that hearing aid doesn't work for them because it's cheap and you kind of get what you pay for sometimes. And so this is definitely specific to me. So my library is one of the few libraries that I've seen that has a dedicated technology librarian. That said, with apps like Libby for ebooks or Hoopla, I'm sure you've seen a bunch of different e-services that you can get ebooks or databases. Most librarians have a firmer understanding of technology nowadays. So if you have some problem with Bluetooth pairing, go to your library, see if they can help you walk you through the steps because they may have done it themselves, or maybe one of the services that they have requires Bluetooth pairing. If you have app problems with your hearing aid apps or caption apps, Libby, we always have to troubleshoot Libby. So patron checks out an ebook and it doesn't work, and we have to figure out why. Most of the time, honestly, it's going to be uninstall the app, reinstall the app. But some technology help you can get from your librarian. Maybe not every librarian will be able to help you, but most of the time you will be able to have somebody on staff that'll at least be willing to take the time and walk through some troubleshooting steps with you. And so next time you have a problem with your phone or something like that, go to the library and ask. Don't expect to get the answer because I can't guarantee your library has the right kind of librarians that know, but is certainly willing to try, right? It's a free resource. So go to your library with your phone and see if they can help you out. Yes, Sandy. Yes, go ahead.
We had a board meeting Tuesday night, and two people on the board who were using, we did Google Meet because it's free for now.
Mhm.
Two people couldn't put on the captions. And even though on the middle of the screen said CC, they said they couldn't find it. I don't think one person was using an app, an Android, because his laptop was in the shop. The other person didn't know anything about technology. Neither
Yeah.
one's here today, but they couldn't figure out the captions on this app. So what do you do?
So I've seen that happen a lot. If you're on a mobile device, so if he was on like a tablet or if he was on a smaller screen, sometimes what happens is with smaller screens, real estate is at a premium, so they collapse the menus. So if you can't find something, you want to look for 3 bars or 3 dots. And what that is that's the menu option. Because a lot of the times with the caption apps, with the caption button, like I know we have issues with Zoom, is if your screen is too small, it gets pushed off to the more menu because there's not enough room. So it's gonna be there, but where there is depends on the device. So that's why you want to look for 3 dots or 3 bars. That's just a good technology rule, troubleshooting tip across the board, because that's the way the design of websites and digital services are going. Is you want the content, you want what you're looking at to have the most room, and in order to do that, they have to collapse things. And so apparently menu is too long a word, and so they just use a little icon that has, like I was saying, the 3 dots or the 3 bars. And so look for that, and most of the time it's collapsed underneath that, and then you'll see the caption options. If the screen is zoomed in, if somebody has visual issues as well, sometimes you have to scroll from side to side and up and down in order to find everything. So that's where it's really difficult to troubleshoot because it depends. The answer is, I don't know. We have to like kind of troubleshoot. I will say one thing you can try to do is there's usually a print screen button on your phone, on the laptop. It's PRTSC. It's usually in the top row. And what that'll do is that'll take a picture of your screen, and then you can paste it into a Word document or an email or something like that, and like share the screen that way. And that way you can see what they see, and then maybe, oh, it's right there. And they just didn't know what to look for, stuff like that. That makes sense? I'm sorry, I don't have like a definitive answer for you. It's frustrating, but that's kind of the norm when it comes to technology. So yeah, so library, we're always learning new stuff, and libraries are constantly adjusting, right? I've been a librarian for 11 years, and I still get the question, why do we need libraries? We have Google. I still get that question. And I'll be honest, we use Google sometimes, but because we've had to adapt so much, we can, whether they're a technology librarian, whether they have hearing aids or not, the troubleshooting tips, like the reference question, the reference interview is what they call it. Sometimes people can help that you wouldn't think. So use your library, walk in and say, I have this problem with this app, and see if somebody can help you, because you never know. All right, so I use my hearing loss to promote things. And so this is the audiogram. So if you've never seen, if this is actually my audiogram. So you can actually see where my plot points are. If you've never seen that, what that is in yellow, that is what they call the speech banana. And so this is why over-the-counter hearing aids don't always work, is because different points along the graph are where certain sounds live in the world. And so you have over here, you have at the lower end, so like that up to down, you have the decibels, so how loud it is, and then right to left, you have the frequencies. And so you can see at the 250, 30 decibel level, when I say Z, that's where it is. And so you can see without my hearing aids, I'm nowhere near this speech. So without my hearing aids, I can't hear basically any sounds, any speech sounds. And so I've taken to showing this at a lot of my tech help sessions to kind of give people a picture of what it is. And so this is where all these different sounds live. And then on the side here, this is just the levels of hearing loss, right? So the baseline is you don't need hearing aids, you have no loss. And so it goes from mild loss all the way to profound loss. So you can see I am moderately severe and severe, depending on the point of the graph. So I'll show people this to show them why those over-the-counter hearing aids aren't working. And this is also something I have a monthly hearing aids tips and tricks class. And if you scan that code, it goes to a Zoom registration. So you're welcome to attend. So my next one is Monday. And so if you want to hear some more tips and tricks, you can scan the code. And if you don't want to do it now, I'll be here afterwards and you can scan it and you can come in. And so what I want to use that for is to get the conversation going. So that's my hearing loss. What works for me is going to be different than what works from anybody else in this room. So the reason I'm holding it every month is so people can talk about their hearing loss, get the conversation going, tell other people what works for them. I had somebody talk about an app I didn't know about, and another person used it. So I don't know everything. I'm not gonna try to pretend I do. And so this group is really meant to get people talking. And that's really why I got involved with HLAA in the first place, is to just get the conversations going. Because I spent the first 20 some odd years of my life trying to ignore my hearing loss. I was bluffing, and I'm bluffing poorly, but it was something that I just wasn't ready yet to have those conversations. And so I want other people to have the conversations. And so they had to have a venue in order to do it. And so I'm lucky I have the support of my library director. So I use that every Monday night at 7 is when the fourth Monday of every month at 7. That's when I have that class. It's just another reason the library is a resource. It's a public forum, and it's something that's going to be there whether you want to use it or not. And so I mentioned earlier about how librarians are always looking for input as to what to offer patrons. If this is something you want your library to start, you can have them get in touch with me and I can show them how I did it. Honestly, it's just a Zoom meeting. So I have a Zoom meeting, and then we have a fancy owl cam, so there can be some people in the room and people on Zoom, kind of like what we're doing here. And that way they can, no matter where you are, you can participate. And it's just a forum, right? So my library is very small, and I walked into this library and I was very jealous because not only is it very small, it was built in the 60s, so it's very ugly. And this building is beautiful. But one of the things that we had to pivot is we didn't have the room for an exhaustive physical collection. So I remember interviewing and I walked into the library for the first time. My first thought is, where are all the books? But we didn't have the space, and it wasn't the best use of our funds to try to have this huge collection because we had nowhere to put it. So one thing we did is we pivoted, and so now we focus on programming more than a lot of libraries that are bigger that have the option to have a big collection. So check with your library. Maybe they're looking for programming, and maybe you can run it, right? I have a couple of different patrons that run different groups in the library. So work with your library. Sometimes you just need the space, right? You just need the space in order to have the conversation. And so my library is one of those spaces. You're welcome to join. That's why I have the Zoom option. But if you want to have something local and have the option to do in person, talk to your friendly neighborhood librarian and see if they are amenable to you creating a program. Yes.
Where's your library?
Wilmington, Mass. It's about 45 minutes north of Boston. So it took me about an hour and a half to get here. So you're welcome to, if you live in the area, you're welcome to drive. But you don't have to, because that's why I had the Zoom. But if you want to come visit me, I'm paid to be there, so come see me. So the other thing I had was a book group. And so again, I had it on Zoom. And I mentioned this because I had a completely deaf patron. So she's capital D deaf. I won't get into the whole thing, but like there's us, we're biologically deaf, right? So we had some hearing and now it's gone. In general, but the capital D deaf people who were born with no hearing at all, went to like deaf residency schools. Their first language is ASL. And so she was able to join my book group because I had Zoom and I had the captions. And so she would join remotely and she would just pay attention to the captions. I would have to set ground rules in the beginning because we can't have people talking over each other. Got to give the captions a chance to do their job. So we had to have people like take turns. So I would just set the expectations in the beginning. Like everybody has to take turns. Please raise your hand, whether it's your physical hand or your Zoom hand, just raise something so I can take turns and people can speak. And so when she's nonverbal, and so the way that she chimed in was a text. So she would raise her hand and she would put out a text with her comments. She had great insight for most of the books. It was a great option. And so that's the technology really allowing an accessibility accommodation for people that usually are kind of isolated, because hearing loss can be very isolated. And the more loss you have, the more isolating it is. And so a book group, I mean, libraries are all about book groups. And so you can definitely do it in person and just use this. You can use like the Ava app, right? So that's something I'll do, and I'll show you an example of that later. But libraries are always looking for book groups. Check with your library, see if there is a book group. And if you want to join, but haven't joined now because you know you're going to have problems hearing the discussion, ask for the accommodation. Like you can even bring your own phone, download the Ava app yourself, give yourself the accommodation. But there's no reason we shouldn't be able to take part in these conversations and not enjoy it. I can't say you're always going to enjoy the book, because it depends on the book that's chosen. But I ran multiple book groups over the course of about 15 years, and I'll say that sometimes when the book is bad, the conversation is better because people really have a lot to say about it. But you should be able to chime in. And if you up until now you've had problems having conversations, use like the Ava app or talk to your librarian, right? We don't know what we don't know as librarians or anybody in general, right? So approach your library, see what kind of offerings they can give you before you decide to take it upon yourself. I mean, that's not something that we should have to do ourselves. A lot of times it is, but librarians are really open to things. So check it out. Okay. So March 3rd, every year, the World Health Organization celebrates something called World Hearing Day. And so this is a global initiative. And so this year, what I did was I had two different programs at the library to make it more to spread the word about hearing loss, essentially. And so the first picture here is a story time. And so the youth services librarian and I ran a program to raise awareness among kids about hearing loss, which is one of the main drivers for the program. And so Nicole, the youth services librarian, read a book called Can Bears Ski? So it's a kid's book, obviously. It's a kid's book about this little bear who people keep asking him, can bears ski? And he has no idea why they're asking him this. And so he hears it from his dad, he hears it at school, he hears it from his teachers, from people on the street. And of course, ends with the last chapters. He's at the audiologist, and can bears ski was actually, can you hear me? And so he gets his first set of hearing aids, and it's really sweet. And so after Nicole read that book, I took out my hearing aids and I showed the kids my hearing aids so it can kind of put the physical representation on that book. You see, I got one kid that she was very interested. She was there and she almost wanted to hold the hearing aid. That was a bridge too far for me. I did not want to have a child hold my hearing aid, but it was good to be able to show them. It was really good. So the other thing I had on the other screens, I think actually Betty's talking next month. And so Betty Hawk was a concert violist who lost her hearing. And so she could no longer actually do her job because she couldn't hear the cues and stuff like that. And so she pivoted to become an activist. And so we hired her to come to the library to tell her story about hearing loss and then finding music again. And she played a couple of pieces and it was wonderful. And it's really tough to see in this picture, but the screen behind her, I had an iPad connected to the AV system like here, and it was just had Ava up. So I had captions going and it was captioning what she was saying. I will say I had to turn it off really quick because it was very, very wrong for a couple of words and I had to turn it back on. So you do have to monitor it because it's not going to be perfect, but it gave a level of accommodation that I really wanted for a program dedicated to hearing loss. And so I was able to just tap into the AV system of the room, show the captions on the big captions behind them. So kind of like what we're doing here, but instead of a slideshow, the entire screen just had the captions. It went longer than 40 minutes, so I just killed the session and started again. But it was great. And people definitely found it helpful. I think Betty actually used it during the Q&A. She had problems hearing something, so she turned around and Ava helped her out. So just remember March 3rd, every year is World Hearing Day. And I'm going to do it again next year. I'm going to do something, I don't know what, but I want to be able to keep that conversation going and tap into the global conversation, right? Because the World Health Organization is run by the UN, so it's not just in America. And so being able to get into that conversation is invaluable. So it was fun. So I'm also the chair of the ALA, so that's American Library Association interest group called Bridging Deaf Cultures. And so what that is that's kind of the opposite end. So this talk here, I'm talking to patrons of libraries, how they can use the library, what they need to do to make the library more accommodating. What this does is I talk with other librarians and do it from the other end. And so I say like, okay, these are programs I've held. These are things and technologies that I use in my library, so you can make your library more accessible for the deaf and the hard of hearing. We came up with a resource list, so that's the bottom right for you guys. And so that just has a bunch of different resources for it's kind of floundering a bit because it's hard to keep the conversation going, but I'm sticking with it. But that's you can see book reviews, ASL resources. And so I really like being involved in this because the vast majority of hearing accommodations are ASL. I don't know about you, I don't know ASL. So that's not going to be an accommodation that's going to work for me. And so introducing the hard of hearing community alongside the deaf community to this group I found very useful. So stop thinking that hiring an ASL interpreter is done. That's all you need for a hearing accommodation. And so I've been talking to librarians across the country, telling them that that's not enough. Yeah, you need it, but maybe think about hiring a CART. So what CART is you actually have a person captioning. So we're using AI captions here, and you can see it's missing things. And it's sometimes it's missing entire sentences, words, getting the wrong words. There's someone listening, so they're much more accurate. And so I'll say to librarians, if you're having a program, try hiring the CART people. You have a programming budget. use it on accommodations. So the other accommodations I have here, so this Time to Loop America, this is a website that's that collects locations of assisted listening systems. And so what I did is I took that on and I asked all of the people that in the group to let me know if you have an assisted listening system. And I'll get into, I think I'll get in, yeah, I'm gonna get into that next. But so the HLAA Boston chapter is always looking for in-person meetings because we have many members who don't come to the Zoom meetings. They want to be in person here. There's no substitute, but some people can't hear well enough to be in person. And so what the assisted listening system does is it pipes information directly to hearing aids and cochlear implants. Well, you want to know where you're going before it. So what the list is all libraries, hopefully around the country. It's an ongoing project. Which libraries have assisted listening systems? So this room at least does not have one. But this seems to be enough. And I think the captions are also helping. But it's also, you shouldn't be done. You should be able to go the next step. There's usually grant money. So I think that one of those, so one of those is grants. So libraries can, depending if there's funding at certain levels, but we can apply for grants for accommodations. So that's another thing we're trying to do is track down like, okay, yeah, an assisted listening system's thousands of dollars and you're a really small library. You don't have the budget for that. There's help, but we don't know where the help is. So my goal here for this is to just give librarians resources in order to help the patrons and themselves. And so I'll open it up here. So if anybody knows that their local library has an assisted listening system, please let me know and I'll add it to the list because I want to share this out with librarians and HLAA chapters. Because if you want an in-person meeting, it should be an accommodated meeting. So now let me get into what an assisted listening system is. And so this is the system that I just bought for my library, and it was about the whole product was about $5,000, which isn't bad. So this is an FM system. So the piece on the device on the top is the transmitter, and so what this is this hooks into the AV system, and it will send the sound to a receiver, which is in right or bottom left for you guys. And the receiver, it's an FM system, so it's using radio waves. And so it's taking whatever's spoken through the AV system, sending it from the transmitter to the receiver. And then the default receiver is just a headset, right? So even if you don't have hearing aids, you can benefit from the assisted listening system because that's going to boost the sound for you. This receiver is going to have the sound from the transmitter, and then it has a volume control. And so you just plug in the headset and you turn it up. And so you can actually hear better even without hearing aids. I will say that if you do have hearing aids, having headphones over your hearing aids is very uncomfortable. So what I also did is I got a neck loop. So this, the one in the middle here is a neck loop. So instead of a headset, what I do is I can plug that neck loop in the receiver, put it around my neck. And remember I was talking about the T-coil? That's a T-coil. So that translates the sound from FM to the T-coil. So like my headset, it's connecting to the T-coil in my hearing aids and sending the sounds directly to my hearing aids. So what if you don't have T-coil? So this little icon here, the W, is something called Wavecast. So what that does is that allows me to install an app on my phone. And if my Bluetooth has paired to my hearing aids, I can send the sound for the people in the room directly to my hearing aids through my phone. So I went with this system because it's not technically a full T-coil, right? Because it's just one option is the T-coil. I went with this because of the flexibility of it and the cheapness. So if you look at this floor here, the T-coil, what you'd have to do is you'd have to dig up the floor and run a copper coil around the perimeter of the floor. And so that's tens of thousands of dollars. This was $5,000. And so this is the compromise, right? I know that can be a dirty word sometimes, but this is a compromise. I could get my town behind this. They weren't gonna allow me to tear up a conference room and lay a T-coil, but they were allowing me to plug something into the AV system and use the radio waves. And so it's good enough. I mean, it's better than nothing. It's not perfect, but it's a great offering. Yeah.
Where I live at Great Island in the Pine Hills, they put in wavecam. And I've used it, but there's a delay.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable, the
Okay.
delay, and nobody knows how to fix it.
Oh, that's interesting. So the speed of sound is quicker than the speed of Bluetooth. And so that's what so there's a latency delay that somebody needs to get to do it. So so the people who installed it don't know how to fix it, because usually they'll have like an electrical engineer on site, on the staff, and they just have to delay it. So that's unfortunate. And so that's using Bluetooth, right? So there's the Bluetooth delay is what you're running into. And that's the problem that Auracast is going to resolve, because Auracast is a Bluetooth technology, but the speed is much greater. And so you won't have that delay. And so you can look at, because there are Auracast systems. You'd have to use like one of these receivers as well. So if you got an Auracast system, you'd have to have a receiver with a neck loop or something in order to translate the signal, because most hearing aids don't have the receiver to be fed the Auracast signal. It's frustrating. I can empathize for sure. And so you have to figure out whether it's actually an accommodation that's helping you or not. So, but definitely don't be quiet about it, right? So the things aren't, so I always tell people all the time, like when like fellow librarians or patrons come to me with a technology problem and like, oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to bother you. I'm like, it's my job. I can't fix something that I don't know is broken. So if something's not working, I'm sure everybody here is used to speaking up, but please continue to speak up if something's not working. They may not be able to fix that problem, but the more people complain about the problem, it's going to be on their minds. Either eventually they'll be able to fix it, or maybe a new solution will resolve that problem. But they can't work on it if they don't know there's a problem. So good on you. Yeah.
The other problem is that at the library, they have an assistive listening device, and our club room has an assistive listening device, but they said nobody asked for it.
So that's one of the pushback I got when I was trying to get one for my library. Is like, oh, is it going to get used? And so I went around to other libraries and asked, has your assistive listening system been used? And of course, the answer was no. And so I said that, well, we need to teach people that it's there, number one, because the signage isn't always there. So we need to let people know. But people also have to ask, right? So like, that's why I'm so glad that everyone's here today, is because ask your library. Ask if they have an assisted listening system, and they'll get it on their system or their mind. And the more people that ask, you can justify getting it. I'm very fortunate. My current director was very open to it. And so even if I couldn't even if I couldn't promise the system would get used, they were able to do it with the acknowledgement that maybe it's not going to be used, but it's worth at least trying. I will say the HLAA Boston chapter is having an in-person meeting at my library in December. And so HLAA chapters are a really good resource to start using those systems. And so that's where this comes in handy too, right? This list of libraries that have assisted listening systems, so that way you can know where it is. And I can send this to you, Sandy, so you can push it out. Yes, 1 second.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say that more and more people are using Bluetooth technology. Yeah. They're not gonna ask for the listening devices, if they have Bluetooth.
So
Yeah.
that's a great point, right? So why do I need to use the assisted listening system if I have Bluetooth? But the Wavecast app is built into the assisted listening system. So yeah, you have the Bluetooth, which you need in order to get to connect to the assisted listening system. So Bluetooth and ALS, which is always confusing to say because it's also Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS and Bluetooth, it's not mutually exclusive. That's why I went with this option, is because I can make use of people's knowledge about Bluetooth. So good point. Yeah. All right. So books, right? Let's go give you some books here. And so this is fantastic. So Here and Beyond, Sherry Eberts and Gail Hanen, both actual active members in HLAA National. I read this book in 2020 when I thought about quitting my job because I couldn't do it. And I didn't know how to speak up for myself because I went 39 years not doing it and bluffing and fooling only me that I was bluffing successfully. But this book is fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. Check with I'll give a plug for Sherry and Gail. Buy the book. Go ahead and buy the book. But if you can't talk to your library and have them buy the book for you, there are so many good tips and tricks. There's so many good resources. This book is how I learned about the HLAA. So like it was one of the things that was like the further reading or something like that. It's like get involved in your HLAA chapter. And I finished the book and I reached out to the Boston chapter and then ended up redesigning their website because I could. So Here and Beyond, I can't recommend it enough. Becoming Hearing Empowered. This is another. Catherine Ryback is also involved in HLAA, and she has an Etsy store. And so for a while, I wanted to like make my hearing aids more visible because I'm in a library and people think I'm tricking them by asking them to speak up. So she has these cloth coverings you can put over your hearing aids to make them more visible. And I tried it for a while, but it was like rubbing against my ears, so it didn't really work for me. But her book here it's almost like it's a journal, essentially. It's a journaling exercise, and it's you have to like look around your life and see like who are the people in your life that you want to talk to. Are they doing what they need to do? Are you doing what you need to do to get the accommodations? So this isn't like a read book. This is read and then write out things. And so I found this one very useful as I was trying to figure out how I can advocate for myself, because it wasn't something I had done. And the later you start, the harder it is. And so I found that very useful. Shouting won't help. This was fascinating. So Catherine Bolton is a New York Times editor, and she lost her hearing, I think, at like her 50s. And so she tried to figure out like how can she do her job when her job as an editor and journalist is to talk to people. And if she can't hear those people, how is she going to be able to do it? And I love the title, right? Because sometimes depending on that pitch, remember the speech banana, people's voices come at different parts of that graph. And so if they're shouting at a part that you can't hear, shouting won't help. So it's a great resource. It's a great exploration of like what one woman's journey into like how to live with hearing loss. And being a journalist, she delves into like the research behind hearing loss and the development of hearing aids and the stigma around hearing loss very well, because that's her job, is to present information in a readable manner. So Shouting Won't Help is another good one. The Invention of Miracles by Katie Booth. So everybody knows Alexander Graham Bell. Very problematic person. Yeah, he got credit for inventing the telephone. Even that is controversial. But his mother and his wife were both completely deaf. And he later on in his life, he basically got into eugenics. He said he thought that deaf people should not marry because they should not be able to have children. And so it's a fascinating read because it kind of takes him down a peg. Yeah, he did a lot of good stuff. But there's also problematic things that he's done. And it was just mind-boggling to read because like your mother is deaf, and you're advocating that for the fact that you never should have been born yourself because deaf people shouldn't have it. So I love these. I love like obviously this is nonfiction. I love these books that make you think. And hero worship is dangerous when you have these giants of history. No one's perfect. Everyone's going to have flaws. To whitewash that, I think it belittles the person because you still have to give him plenty of credit. He founded the Alexander Graham Bell Foundation, which is still around and doing a lot of good things. I think he was one of the founders of National Geographic. So he did a lot of good things, but he also did a lot of bad things. And so because it has to do with hearing loss, that's why it's on this list. Deaf Gain. So this is a really fantastic one. It's an academic textbook, and it's a series of essays, and it is more geared towards like university students and teachers. But because it's not a narrative, you could pick and choose what chapters to read, and so I definitely recommend it. And the reason I picked it up is I'm a big fan of like just words in general, and I saw Deaf Gain. I'm like, okay, that's a euphemism, right? It's trying to soften the blow of hearing loss. And I'm like, I don't know if I like that. But the chapter in here that talked about deaf gain pointed out that it's only a euphemism for people who can hear. People who are born deaf, they gain things. So there's a chapter here that's a neurological study that shows that people, when you're hearing, your auditory cortex doesn't get enough work because you can't hear, your visual cortex uses some of the auditory cortex. So I have fantastic peripheral vision, and it's because I can't hear well. And so deaf gain isn't a euphemism. It's just seeing the hearing world from a different center. So deaf people center from not hearing. Everyone else, right? Mainstream society, we center from hearing. So yeah, hearing loss is the right term, I guess, for us, but for completely deaf people, the deaf gain is the right choice for them. So I won't lie, it's a tough read at times because these are just basically professors, but it's worth at least picking up. But what I would do is this one specifically, ask your library to pick up so you don't have to buy it and you can just check it out and read the chapters that you want. Rebuilt. So this is a good one. So Michael Choros got a cochlear implant, I think in the 90s. So this is his story about going through that decision, right? So it's a big decision because when you get the cochlear implant, the world sounds completely different. The sounds are much more, there's not a big range. For a while, for a cochlear implant had 22 channels. That means 22 frequencies that it can actually process. The cochlear that the implant is replacing has 3,400 channels. So it really shortens it. But if you can't hear anything, that's better than nothing. But this was really a fascinating read because it gives you insight into the technology behind the cochlear implant. Because he'll go into the history of the first implant, which I think was in like the 50s or something. Technology is always goes back longer than you expect. Of course, in the 50s, it was probably trash. It probably didn't work very well, but you got to start somewhere. And so to see him kind of come to terms with needing a cochlear implant and getting it, it was fantastic. Fantastic read. TrueBiz. So this is a fiction one, and this is the first book I saw as a librarian really have people ask after. And so it's more for capital D deaf. So the protagonist does go to a deaf school, but she does have some hearing. And so there's a lot of plot centered around whether she should wear her hearing aids or whether she should just learn sign language. And there's drama because she's a kid and all that kind of stuff. But I love to mention this one because this is the first novel that had a hard of hearing protagonist that I actually had patrons ask after. So it's a New York Times bestseller. Sarah Novick is deaf herself. So that's something that I always try to focus on because if you've heard of like the baby sign movement, so there's a big series of books that for kids books that are being touted as giving your kid a leg up because you can learn to sign quicker than you can learn to speak. But the issue with the whole baby sign series is it's written by a hearing woman and doesn't use ASL. So it's belittling the ASL culture. And so that's why I always like to see who is writing these books. So all these books that I've seen up until, I think there's one that isn't, but the vast majority of books are written by people in the community they're talking about. And so this is a fantastic one. Oops, wrong way. So here's the Canterbury. Cute little book. I think that you could do well. I think more people should read kids' books. I mean, it's because they're quick reads. They're usually funny and uplifting. And as the world is, sometimes you need something funny, uplifting. And it does a great job of distilling big information into like bite-sized chunks. You're not going to get the whole story because it's a kid. It's geared towards kids. But read more kids' books. So not a sound. So this is Heather is not hard of hearing, but the protagonist wears hearing aids and she's a detective and her hearing aids get wet or something. I read it years ago, but it was really good to see an author just kind of use the protagonist as a way to deliver the message about hearing loss, because the hearing loss is part of her struggle, but it doesn't define her. So often in media, whether it's movies or books, you have that hard of hearing person who is defined by their hearing aids or is comic relief. But this book was pretty good. It was a good example of how you can introduce hearing loss into the story, but just make it part of it. Of course, it's going to give her more challenges than a detective that did not have hearing loss, but it doesn't kind of belittle it. So it's good that way. So the last thing I'll say is I have a show with a fellow hearing loss loser, hearing loss hearing loss person, hearing aid user, that's what I meant. And so we talk about, we have topics that we talk about, we have differing opinions. So Julie failed her first hearing test at 3 and then got hearing aids. And so we come at like these hearing loss topics at totally different perspectives. And so again, this is just another way to start the conversation. And so the earliest example of like differing opinions is something called hearing buddies. So I have somebody at work who I disclosed my hearing loss to for one of the few people. And then so like we were at meetings and she would be my hearing buddy. She would make sure that I heard everything I needed to hear. Well, when I presented this to Julie, she just wanted to hit me because she's like, I do not need someone to advocate for me. And she's not wrong because she doesn't need it, but I do. And so what we try to do here is we have blogs, we have an Instagram account. We just try to talk to people, give people an insight into our into just hearing loss, our personal experiences, which are different, but we have the same struggles, but we experience them differently. So if you go, so our website is Down the DTT Productions. So our company is called Down the Tubes because we all have hearing aid tubes. The sound goes down them. So Down the Tubes Production, DTTproductions.com. Check it out. Let us know what you want us to talk about, and we're always looking for new topics in order to spread the word. That is all I had. I think I went a little over, so I apologize. Thank you for not falling asleep on me. I appreciate it. Does anyone have any questions? Is everyone hungry? Is that what it is? Want to eat? No questions? Oh yeah, okay. What I can do is I'll email Sandy the slideshow so everyone can have it that way.
Oh, okay, yeah. I would like to get some of the book.
I'll email you the slideshow.
Okay, question.
And talk to my library, see if they have anything. Yeah. Are you familiar with Eastern Library? No, okay.
Brad, this is wonderful talk, and I'm really glad, thank you for driving an hour
That's okay.
and a half or 45 minutes, whatever, to come. Wow. Question I have is I signed up for the Brad and the talk, Monday, but I accidentally realized my emails were wrong, so I tried to correct it. It went back to the same email. I'm made a mistake on the email. It won't let me change it. And also, I can't come Monday because of Rosh Hashanah.
Oh, right. Yeah, fair enough. I'll look at it. So you used your name when you signed up, so I can see who registered, and so you want me to change the email address to well, you can't come this month, but it's every month. So maybe you'll be able to come in what's next month? October. Where are we? So I'll change it to the HLAA Southeast email address, or if you want me to use your personal email address, so I can update the registration for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I chapter need somebody like you. Young,
Yeah.
technology minded, can help me. But for example, Harry, who's the president of Boston chapter, sent me the newsletter, sent me about the hearing.
Oh, the bill, yeah.
I want to just copy that and send it out. And I don't know how to do that. And you taught me how to do the constant contact.
Yeah.
You taught me how to do a newsletter.
Yeah.
But when I don't do it for a month and then I come back to a month later, I don't remember every detail. You're not there and I'm stuck.
Yeah. You know what? Check with your local high school, because high schoolers, at least in Wilmington, they have to have community service hours in order to graduate. So see if you can talk to like the principal at the high schools, and see, put HLAA Southeast chapter out there and say like, this is the type of thing you're talking with. So maybe you can get some high schooler to help you with it. That's an option. It's hard. It's really hard to figure out how to get somebody like me. It's not hard if you know where you're starting, and it's repetition too, right? Because and like we've had the Zoom sessions, and so you can book another one of those if you want. And so I do one of the great things. We have a Zoom account which we got for the library, which we got during the pandemic, because that's the only way we can hold programs, but we still have it. And so we're paying for it. And so I went to my boss, I'm like, can I offer tech help sessions through Zoom? I mean, it's not ideal. It's not as good as in person. I won't lie. So like in person, it's much easier to show people things, but it's better than nothing. And so if you Yeah, let me get out of the slideshow here. So my library website is, oh yeah, so there's my website. Zoom is a pain in the butt. Man, get out of the way. So technology, huh? Oh, of course. Okay, there we go. So my library website is wilmlibrary.org. See if I typed it right. You can see what I'm typing. There we go. Yeah. So this is my library website. And so there, if you go to services, there's a tech help session, a tech help page. And so if you wanted to book a session, you can do that. Or, you can just email me. And we can do something off session. And so we have to change that. So oh, it doesn't really see it. So my email address is my initial. So my email address, my work email address is bmckenna, BMCKENNA at
No
wilmlibrary.org.
captions, no captions.
Oh, right, sorry. Let's go back up to here. And then to where are the captions? Oh, I got a slideshow. 1 second. Oops. I gotta go slide. Come on, there we go. So my email address is bmckenna at WILMLIBRARY.org. Wow, that's pretty bad. Oh, I guess it's all there. I don't know why I did the space where it is. So let's see, bmckenna at wilmlibrary.org. Let's see. Sort of. Anyway, you can come see me afterwards. I can write it down for you. But yeah, okay,
I'm wondering if most of your presentations are at libraries, and the reason I'm asking is because I live in Sandwich, this is my library.
yeah.
And I'm looking around, it's like, why aren't my librarians here? Did they know you were doing this? And
I don't think so. I think this is booked. So
I mean, I spoke to someone before Sandy to set this meeting up, but I didn't really get it, what you were presenting, and if you just make a point of telling the librarians when you come, making it clear, and
Yeah.
inviting them to come and sit in, because I'm gonna check out what this library has,
Yeah.
but to hear it from you as a librarian, as a hearing challenged person,
yeah.
I just think this is a great resource.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
So I don't do this very often. So the first time I did this presentation was in June. So I really don't do it. So I did record this presentation. So because it's usually we have a couple of people on Zoom. That was a way to not only record it, but allow people to come that couldn't physically be here. And so I can make this recording available to and I'm going to put it up in the Boston YouTube, so I'll make it available for. Do you have a YouTube channel? You know what? I'll just I'll upload it to. You have a YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay, so I give you the file, and we can upload it on your page too. So it's going to be weird because the screen looks a little different on Zoom, but all the content is there, and the captions will be captured. Oh man, my battery's about to die, so it looks like the show's almost over. But yeah, so I'll put this up, so I'll make it available. That way, if I don't have, I'm really busy, so like I want to help, but I don't have the time to help. And so I think this was a good compromise again, is to come here and record it. And you guys got lucky because you were here in person. But yeah, but yeah, reach out because this is library specific. I can do a lot of this stuff on the job, and so that alleviates some of my time constraints, is because I only have so much time after work to do things. But because it's focusing on library services, it's not a conflict of interest. I can do it during the day. So please reach out. Yeah.
I think the answer to your question, Tracy, is that, well, I know when we had the meeting in March at the Duxbury Senior Center, nobody from the senior center stayed. They said, here's the meeting, walked out. Then we had the meeting at the Middleborough Senior Center, the library, whatever. The people introduced, they stopped the center meeting and walked out. Here, the people say, here's the meeting, walked out. I don't know how to force, the people, that even though it's good for them to learn this information, everybody's busy, and I think the people here in law who come appreciate what we learned, but the people who don't know, don't know.
You just have to talk to the library. We have plenty of people that come in and just want to chat. And if they want to chat about how they think the library should be run. It would be refreshing to hear somebody talk about what I talked about as a patron, because sometimes the ideas are off the wall. I wish that patron would go away, I won't lie. But we're constantly getting input from people. So just talk amongst yourselves and talk to your librarians, because we're constantly adjusting. We're constantly planning for like programming or resources or how best to use this room. So like you could book this room as a nonprofit organization. And so maybe you just use this room on a regularly basis. Each library has a different policy when it comes to how many times you can book the room. But the library's got a lot to offer. And so just talk to them and see what they can do for you. And as a librarian, if you need me to come in, or probably over email rather than physically, but if you need me to talk to a librarian, just tell them like what I'm doing and maybe make sense of your requests, because maybe they don't understand it. But as a librarian and someone with hearing loss, I might be able to put a spin on it that will convince them. So please use me as a resource. I am available. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, one more.
Our freebies in the back table, if anybody wants them, there's some catalogs and information about HLAA.
Great. Right. That's all I got. Yeah, thank you.
So if anybody go to your left, we can stay.
Thank you.
So earlier, I mentioned about my not getting involved much with HLAA. Because in Northern Virginia, you have another organization.
Either of you have any questions? I'm here. No?
That's one I was.
No.
Thank
Thank you. Oh, I do. I missed some of your recordings about some of the books.
So
that
I
you
did
were,
record the
like,
session. So
talking
you're
about.
certain, I'll share. So the Boston chapter will announce it. And so if you go to HLAA-boston.org, I'll put a blog post up there with the recording. And so that way the part that you missed, you can catch up on.
I forgot my laptop, but I get it. Can you show them how to take the Boston information?
Okay.
But I made a copy
Was-
of it.
Okay.
And I
Was